that's our focus. And part of what we do with that process is we collaborate. We collaborate with a lot of influencers and experts. And, that's what this is all about, collaborating with people like Dessa, like yourself, and like Terri Lynn, who we're going to hear from Eventful Advantage. And I think what's, Tony Verovan introduced me to Terri, or maybe it was Steve Mintz, but regardless, I mean, what we started with AMA Windbound, I don't know how old, I think AMA is 60 years old, and craft marketing, I believe, is 58 years. I think we started this 58 years ago and reached out to these guys, and we knew we needed an event that we needed to promote and get our name out. And it's been fantastic, and it's been a great collaboration with AMA. So we thought, we have not had anybody come on and talk about this incredible marketing opportunity event. So Terri, her name came to the, there she is, came to the top of the list. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Terri Lynn from Eventful Advantage. Really looking forward to tonight's presentation. Thank you, Terri, for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Greg. I'm so excited to be here, and I know I am around fellow marketers, which is so awesome, and some that wear many hats, and marketing is one of them. And so I am going to share my screen here, and we'll get going. There we go. Okay, I'm going to kind of move some things around here. Okay, so I'm showing up a little bit differently than most of the time when you see PowerPoint slides. I'm actually using the advanced version on Zoom that is in beta. So this is Zoom's attempt and you can move if the view is not right for you, you can always click on a different view. But this is where I'm going to be doing the presentation. And I'm going to be talking today about build your business and brand with events in person and online. So first of all, I'd like to start it out. This is craft marketing. I don't really have a craft beer, but let's say everyone say cheers. Cheers. Okay, whatever you have, whether it's water to a real craft brew and everything, and this is great. That's what's kind of fun about this. This is a more relaxed type of environment to share information. So I am going to start actually telling you a story about one of my events. It happens to be a realtor, but I just wanted to share with you that you do not need to be a realtor to get information out of here. There's a lot of different concepts that you will get from this that really apply to everyone, no matter what your industry, business size, and so forth. And so this particular event started because I happened to be in a networking group with a realtor, and he and I really didn't even know each other that much, but he heard me do my talk about, yes, use events to build your business and brand. And he goes, "Can you help me sell a house?" I go, "I can sure try." So he was responsible for selling this $2.7 million home. It was new construction. He was getting a lot of pressure. He had put already a lot of marketing dollars into trying to sell this home, and it wasn't moving. So I said the first thing we wanted to do is just go visit the home. And we went to go visit, and as you can see by this picture, which doesn't totally do it justice, but it was had very tall ceilings, it had a lot of light, and it was very neutral inside. And so the first thing that I thought of when I walked into this house was, oh my God, I need to decorate this house, because it just called for like abstract, bright colored art on the walls. And I'm all about highlighting, the unique selling proposition of things in the events. And so I wanted to go check this house out a little bit more. And what did I discover? I discovered a wine wall. Now everything was empty when I first discovered it. So you're kind of seeing some after effects here, but there was a wine wall, there was a butler's pantry, there was a wine cooler. And in some of the walls, there was these recessed areas where they could really show artwork. And so my first thought of creating putting artwork up on the walls was further enhanced that this house's unique selling proposition was that it was built for entertainment and built to show off art. And so what the next idea that came to me was, let's do an artist showcase and home tour. And he really liked the idea. He was an art enthusiast himself. And I like to talk big when I talk about events, because I feel like you should go big and let your dreams go at first, and then you can pare it down, because a lot of great ideas can come out of that. And so we were talking, and he's going, you know what? I don't want to spend a lot of money. And I've already spent a lot of money. And so I said, do you have partners, like power partners, people you can collaborate with? And he thought of other realtors. And I go, yeah, that's good. You should invite the other realtors. But I mean, people that you work with, that you refer business back to each other, you have complementary kind of customer. And he goes, you know what? I do work with this insurance person a lot. I do work with this title person. I do work with this mortgage person. So sure enough, he reached out to them. They were excited about doing an event, and in their excitement and in their talking about it, next thing we knew, we had a travel agent, we had a moving company, we had an air conditioning company, we had a J. Hilburn clother. And so it ended up that we had 8 different partners to split the cost of this event. And it's really great. And like Greg alluded to it earlier, that when you collaborate with others, things can be bigger and better, more interesting. And when you do partners or sponsors with events, your reach becomes more, because everyone has their own clientele, their own lists, their own ways of sharing, and it reaches more people. And then the big part, you all share the costs. And so that was really exciting for the real estate person. Now on my side, I reached out to the artist community, and they're used to paying for shows to be able to show their art. So they were thrilled to be able to have a place to show their art for free. And so basically they were free. They came and showed their art in exchange for being able to sell or commission future works. And we collected about 12 different artists. And again, they wanted to share this with their community. So they reached out to everyone they knew. They reached out to their interior designers. And so it was really great. We had paintings, we had sculptures, we had photography, we had glassware, we had jewelry. And so everything was a little different. We chose different rooms to highlight different things. And what was really good is, okay, so the venue is free, the artists are free, everyone's sharing on the costs. Not $1 was spent on advertising. Everyone just shared with all their different lists. So there was no money spent on advertising. Now the realtor did invite the other realtors, and also he had a way to reach the community around the house, because it's always good to invite your neighbors or future neighbors to sell a house. So working a little bit more, I happened, event professionals work with a lot of different partners themselves. And I happened to know a caterer who wanted to expand his business. He usually did just weddings. And on his ideal client list, like when I was networking with him, he said, you know what, I really would like to get a hold of a bunch of realtors. And I go, okay, so here's your opportunity. Work out a beautiful spread of bites and nice appetizers and give it to me at cost, because we're trying to watch the cost, but come attend, bring your promotional material, bring all different things so that you can talk to all these realtors, all these business people that are going to be here, who are now your new ideal client that you're trying to reach. So he went for that. So we saved a lot of money on the food. And hey, when you do in-person events, have good food. That's just a given. You'd have good food. Better to have higher quality, good food than ample and mediocre food or bad food. And then I also had met this baker, and she was new to town. So kind of a similar situation. She just wanted people to know about her. And so she had done her due diligence in reaching out to the event world and sharing tastes of her. They were kind of between a cake and a truffle bite, a cake truffle bite, and they're delicious. And I knew she wouldn't have a problem once people found out about her. So I reached out to her, similar to like the caterer, and said, "Hey, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to be around and share your cake truffle bites at a big discount, and then you can be there to share your promotional material and so forth." And she took it a step up a bit and asked for all the websites of all the artists and recreated their work on top of the cake truffle bites. Every single artist placed an order. The interior designers were thrilled with it and kind of like worked on different orders. Everyone who tasted her product was like, "I need to get this." She left with so many orders. I think she had to probably set up new way to make them all. And so that was exciting. And so what about the experience? So you're going to hear more about this later from me, but I am big about experiences. I feel experiences, and I'll share more with you later, lead to memories. And if you're going to do an event, you want to and take the time, the energy, money, you want to be memorable. And so we already had a $2.7 million house. So that itself is kind of an experience. And then art in every single room with all the artists there to talk to. But we took it up a step level more and had an artist actually paint a picture during the whole event. And that kind of creates that little bit of wow, surprise, and delight that I like to try to create in most of the different events. So everyone found that fascinating. And then along with good food, when you're having an in-person event, you want good beverage. So in my little tool chest, I'm a wine ambassador, and I bring it out if it works with an event. And so I set up a little wine tasting station, and that was also a hit, and people enjoyed the different wine. And then you see this lady who's signing up for things. It's really, really important to collect attendee data when you're doing an event. Like when you sign up for this event, Greg has the information about who has signed up. And then some people will show up and some people won't, but you have the information so you can follow up with everyone that had an interest. And that's what you should do with events. You should make sure and collect attendee data. Now, this was a little bit more open, free-flowing type of event. We didn't have someone checking off who signed up, who showed up, or whatever. Also, many people could just stop by because we had balloons out. Welcome, come on in. People brought friends, you know, they heard there's food, drink, and prizes. And so that's what they're doing, is they're signing up for prizes. That is another way to collect attendee data information to capture the people that maybe didn't register at all or brought a friend. And so it's good to have a double check measure of collecting attendee data so that you can follow up with them. So now, what were the results? Over 200 people attended. Every single artist sold and commissioned work. Every single partner gained new leads and business. And then because they shared it all, the cost was minimal. And then it would have been so perfect if someone came in and said, "I'll buy this house," but that didn't quite happen, but almost. So a person attended who saw the house showing off its unique selling proposition, which was it was built to entertain and it was built to show off art. And they knew the perfect person, and they put that perfect person in touch with the realtor, and within a week, the house sold. So that's one of my favorite event stories. And it kind of shows a lot of the different concepts about what events can do for you, how powerful collaboration is, some important kind of event best practices. So if you liked any aspect of that event, I would really love for you to put it in the chat what you really liked about that, because I like to get some feedback from you, and I'll be checking the chat a little bit later. And so put on in what you liked about that. And so I'm going to introduce you to Odie. Odie is my fur assistant. He's been by my side for pretty much this whole time. Many of you might have fur assistants. Many of you might have feathered assistants, amphibian assistants, whatever assistants. So Odie is saying hi, and if you have a fur assistant, write their names in the chat. I would love to hear your pets' names. So Odie wanted to share about what I'm going to be talking to you more about today, and that is how powerful events are. But you need to know what the power is so that you can build it strategically into your event. All the different types of business events, there's more than ever. That what has happened during this time of COVID is that we've all gotten used to virtual events. They're not going away. But now there's going to be in-person events, and there's going to be hybrid events. There's more choices. And then some event best practices, and I'm going to give you a resource sheet for that too, in case you don't want to take notes or anything, or it doesn't sound good to you now, I have a resource sheet for you. And then the magic of creating experiences. And that's what really is something near and dear to my heart, and what I feel that my tagline is create experiences, not just events. It's that important. So thank you, Odie. I'm looking forward to seeing more of all of yours there, names of any pets and stuff like that. And we're going to move on to the power of events. And so the first thing that I like to think about when you have an event is, who are your current customers, your employees? I'm a big believer that your customers and your employees are also your brand ambassadors. And so you need to keep in touch with them. You earn them. You don't want to lose them, neither of them, and they both lead to your bottom line. So think kindly upon your current customers and your employees and invite them to any of your events. If they're free, make sure they're invited personally. If they're charged, maybe give them a discount or have them go free, have them bring a like-minded friend. And so you want to keep engaged with your current customers, and it's a great way to continue to get to know one another even better, keeps them top of mind, keeps you top of mind in their business, and they think favorably upon you. And then the other power of event is that you attract new customers. Everyone loves lead generation. Events are great to attract new people into your world for either possibly a new prospect, possibly a referral source, spreading the word about you. And so when you communicate about an event in all the different ways, the everything method of social media, email, direct mail, talking through your networking groups and membership groups, you're reaching more people than you ever would have just reached if they're talking about your customer, and they know more about you because they're learning about you because you're talking about it because you're having this event. And even if they can't attend, they will know more about you. So even if no one shows up, I tell some clients, even if no one shows up, they know more about you than a typical just social media post. And so those are some of the power of events, but it continues. So events are the fastest way to really scale your business. You're no longer talking one-on-one, you're talking one to many. And it really helps up speed that whole customer process because you're seeing it's usually in a live type of situation. So it's building that know, like, and trust factor a lot quicker than just a typical post or things like that. And you have a captive audience. You're all here. You want to treat them special. You want to offer them something special and to kind of lead them down the path to do business with you or do whatever your purpose and goal happens to be. And I talked about it before, the attendee data. Collect the attendee data so you can follow up with them in a different way if they attended or not attended, because they showed some interest, just life happened and they didn't show up. The other thing is build brand awareness. You know, when you do all this, you're building your brand awareness, you're increasing your visibility. And when you have partners and sponsors, and one of the other reasons that it's so wonderful to collaborate with others is that you're actually amplifying each other's brand and you're getting it out to more people. And then in addition to making your employees, your customers, your brand ambassadors, I'm big about let's make the attendees brand ambassadors too. And so sometimes you go to these in-person events and there's kind of really cute like Insta places where it's like you just want to take a picture because it's either fun or pretty. That's kind of an example. And usually there's a hashtag associated with it. Your branding is up there and you might encourage people to take the picture and share. They're all of a sudden expanding your brand. And so that is another thing that I like to build into my events is that whole sharing of the brand by the attendees themselves. And then I'm all about quality swag. And so it used to be that people got a bunch of different swag, like especially at a trade show, you had a bunch of different stuff and you collected all this stuff. And then afterwards you go, why did I collect all this crap, right? You threw a lot of it away. And so what is happening now, especially probably since we're home a lot, we don't like clutter as much. There's a lot of different trends in how we live because of what we've been through, is that we really, really like quality swag. And so something that is a value means something to you and your business, but is a value to your like prospective customer or your customer that will have your logo on it and they will not throw it away. It will keep you top of mind. And so I keep a kind of a list of good quality swag, help people out with developing their quality swag. And so the power of events, keep your current customers and employees engaged and loyal, keep them, part of you, keep them top of mind, expanding to new customers, increasing your sales because you're talking to many, and building your brand awareness. So I kind of say, along with your purpose and goals, your unique selling proposition, keep in mind this power of events and strategically build them into your events. So next we're going to talk about the types of business events. And so I mentioned that they're kind of grown more options because we all learned how to do virtual events, but now in-person events are coming back. So for instance, this morning, I had an in-person event in the morning, and then I had 2 virtual events later on that day. And that may be what it's going to be, is kind of combination. And I actually think that's a good thing because we've learned a lot about virtual events and that they're kind of easier, they're low cost. You can attract a larger location. We have some people not just in the Madison area here today. That's awesome. And then in person are coming back and people want that. So you might even have a strategy of doing both. And then a lot of people have been talking about hybrid. It's been the talk that hybrid's going to solve everything. You can have the perfect definition of hybrid is when you have both a in-person and a virtual audience and they're attending the same event and somehow they can interact with one another. Well, it's very hard to do. It costs a lot. You need a lot of great technology. It's like running 2 events at once and then merging them. And so hybrid has not become, in the true sense of the word, not as popular as everyone had thought it would be. And now that you can go back in person and the people are kind of finding out that the reluctance to go back in person is not as great as what they thought, people are opting for one or the other or doing them at 2 separate times. And so that is kind of what is kind of going on there. So let me take a sip of my little craft lemonade before we continue here. Okay. So I have a bonus for you for those online events. It's not a full list, but it's a good list. It's something that I keep by my side when I do online events. I try to use as many of these as possible to keep up interaction and engagement. And it's a QR code. And if you aren't familiar with it yet, kind of what you do is you pick up your phone, you put on the camera and you hold it up and it will take you to a landing page to get this information. Now, if by chance you just don't love QR codes, you don't want to hassle with this right now, you can direct chat me with your email and I can send that. You can just put online event tips and I will get this emailed over to you. So I just wanted to share that. You want to avoid that Zoom fatigue. And so business events is a huge definition of a lot of different things. They're both internal in the company and all of them and external, and they all lead to the bottom line because you want to retain your employees. You want, and that's most of the internal, you want to educate, the sales team. You want to strategically keep people together and plan the future of the company. You want a team bond and all that. And then externally is usually where you're trying to gain more customers and so forth. And so I highlighted a few because events really haven't been happening except for some virtual events in the past over a year or so. And there's real opportunity for those who are the first to do it. And so internally, has the employees been communicated to, because you're working in a hybrid situation, is there a lack of team bonding? How about those holiday and celebration parties? Most of them didn't happen, or they happened very small, or online, and wasn't the greatest. Award appreciation and recognition. I mean, you need to retain the employees. They need to know that they are appreciated. And then on the external side, kind of the same thing, is that, we want to open and reopen. And what I'm finding for the online events is that what is working really well right now are the more engaging ones. So it's more the workshops where you actually go in and do something, or the challenges where you kind of do something every day. So it's where you're really engaging more with the online kind of event. And, again, the celebration, the client appreciation dinners. Oh my gosh, your clients are waiting for you. If you used to do that, they haven't been wined and dined in a long time. So people are looking to, it's an opportunity. It's something that used to be in practice. It definitely works, and just hasn't been happening for some time. The other thing I'm seeing a real big trend on is retreats, especially in the business external world, like the coaches and the speaker type group, especially because they can go to an exotic location, turn it into a pleasure trip, business pleasure, teach there, and actually write it, both the attendees and them, they can write off the whole trip as a business expense. So there's so many different retreats going on right now. It's unbelievable, because people want to get out and haven't traveled for so long. So it's very, very attractive to them. So a lot of times what I do with my clients is we find out all the different purpose goals, your different types of clients, and we figure out the types of events that will work best for you. And there's a lot of them, and the options are more, because anything you do in person can be done virtually, and vice versa. So now on to event best practices. And like I mentioned, at the end of this, I'll have a resource sheet for you, but I'm excited when I see people do events, and I just want them to be the most successful possible. And there's a lot of things that you can do to make them more successful. And so I just really want to help people do something great. So the first thing, kind of in most things, you should start with your purpose and goals. What do you really want to achieve out of the event? Remember all those things we talked about, the power of events. You can work those right in and strategically build. And I'm all about highlighting what's unique about you and your business, your product, your service, how you work. Sometimes it's a process. So that I like to call and highlight, because that's your best way of finding your ideal client. Next is putting in place a time and action calendar. And events take time. They take time to plan, especially if they're a little bit more elaborate than pushing a Zoom button. And they sometimes take months. They sometimes take years if they're a big convention. So put in place a time and action calendar. So there's usually multiple pieces working together. I reverse engineer. I figure out what the event date should be, and then work backward to figure out how everything else gets done. And sometimes you'll find out that you need to start right away, even if the event's not for a while, because otherwise it'll clump in the middle. And so just as really put in time in action, a lot of clients come to me and just they ask for the rescue. It's called the rescue, when you come in and they get a little bit behind calendar. And then create attendee plan. The biggest frustrations with a lot of events is that no one's coming to my events. And so it kind of, in the event world, it's known as getting butts in seats or eyeballs on the screen. But you have to kind of start with, who is your attendee? Who are they? Where are they? What is your goal? Like, how many do you want to actually try to get at your event? Do you have access to them? If you don't, should you add people who might have access to them? Add partners, add sponsors. And in looking at your goal and who you have access to and who your partners have access to, should you advertise? And so that's another way to reach more. And so we work on having an attendee plan. You unfortunately don't just build it and they come. You have to put in a lot of other different components. And then you create an event marketing communication plan. And I like to use event platforms because they actually promote for you too on their own. And this event you signed up through Eventbrite. It's one of my favorites. You can customize the questions you ask to collect the attendee data. They send out some automatic reminders. There's a lot of different things built into it. And then I like everything going to one source. And so even if you post on LinkedIn, even you use Facebook event, it all loads into Eventbrite so you can collect all the data. There are some CRM systems, some of your own websites that can do this all for you too. But I like Eventbrite because it actually promotes different events to different people who like that, and you can follow them. And then the everything method, kind of looking at all the different avenues of marketing. Email, direct mail did a real big boost recently. Social media, your networking, your membership groups, and then deciding if you do need to advertise or not, or deciding if you have so many people at a certain time, making that call. And then timing is so important. I said reverse engineer in the previous slide. Minimum 1 month out. Greg was real good on this event. I already signed up for Lori Talking next month. It's already out. And that's really good because even if people don't sign up right away, you start putting it in their minds. And especially with virtual events, it's a lot of last minute signups. That's just what it happens right now. But start the communication at least a month out for the most success. The event that I went to this morning, we didn't have that luxury. It just wasn't ready, and that happens. And so, but it would have been more successful. We would have had more people there if the person had got out the communication a lot sooner. And then you want to create a great environment and experience. And I'm going to be talking to you more about that. But before I go there, I wanted to give you that resource sheet with the 5 event best practices to get the results you want. And so again, this is QR code thing. It's a different one than the one before. I have a couple different QR codes going on. So if this is something that you want as a resource sheet, kind of use your camera again. Put on the camera function, take it. If you don't like doing it, just put 5 event and direct message me with your email and I'll send it to you. Okay, moving on. Okay, experiences. This is what I love to talk about the most because I just believe so strongly. Just avoid the bad experience. It comes at you in all ways. It could be the food. It could be the temperature of the room. It could be lack of attendance. It could be not being greeted, not feeling welcomed. It can come from all angles. And what do we as humans do when something bad happens to us? It's just human nature. We tell people about bad things. And we tell at least 5 people about them, sometimes 3 times that amount. And then, the people who have a bad experience will not buy from you. They will not be back. And so just work really, really hard at avoiding that bad experience. And what you really want to do is create the great experiences. And this also employs, experiences aren't just for event attendees. Experiences are for employees, they're for clients, they're for members, they're for your own personal self. You want to create as many great experiences in your life as possible. And it builds for the event attendees and also for your clients and your prospective customers. It builds the know, like, and trust. They'll want to come back. They will want to do business with you. Now, the neuroscience part, and I'll talk to you a little bit more because I know Greg highlighted the neuroscience part, and yes, I do use it. I have studied it. I find it totally fascinating. And I think everyone in the marketing field should study it more if you haven't. I'm not an expert. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I've read enough, studied enough that I apply what I've learned to events. And what I have learned is that experiences lead to memories. And if you're going to take the time, energy, money to do an event, you want to be remembered. And your event attendees, if you create an experience for them, will remember you, your brand, and the event. And to take it a step further, so experiences lead to memories. If you want long-term memories, which I think we all do, we want to stay in those minds as long as we can. There's a whole formula that I've kind of put together that I apply to all my events, and it works every time. is that you want to really work on the attendee interaction between each other. You want to work on the engagement with the event. And then the secret sauce involve all 5 senses. And so that is, your sight, your hearing, your taste, your smell, and touch. And online, I even do this online for bigger events. And a lot of times you can't get taste and smell through a screen. So you send kits, have them pick up something, you have them bring something. And so that's a way to kind of move around, getting all the senses in there is including it in the different kits and sending it to them. And people have been loving getting things in the mail. I have to tell you, I do. And then this is my little tip sheet that I kind of came up. You're going to have to either take a screenshot or a picture or reach out to me personal with your email, personal direct in the chat, and I will send the slide to you. These are my ways of creating best experiences that will lead to income. And so I'm not going to go through and read through them all because you can do that. And I know we're getting towards the end of our presentation here. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. And I've talked about some of them already. And so if I'm going to just kind of move that on, but I'm happy to give it to you. And then I know there's a bunch of marketers here who like percentages. And so I dug up some studies and wanted to share this with you. What I found was event marketing plus digital campaigns equals more meaningful and longer lasting relationships with your customers. 74% of event attendees say they have more positive opinion about a company, brand, or service being promoted after an event. And for education purposes, 65% of consumers said live events help them better understand a product or service, surpassing digital efforts and TV advertising. Engaged customers buy 90% more frequently, spend 60% more transactions, are 5 times more likely to buy from the same brand in the future. And then for lead generation, 79% of US marketers generate sales using event marketing. So I'll close with a quote: "A mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimensions." And then one more possible freebie for you. If you go to my website, which is eventfuladvantage.com, there is a complimentary business event experience checklist for in-person or online. And I just want to thank you for being such a great audience and listening to me. I am going to stop share. And Greg, let me know if there's any time for question and answers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we can take all the questions. I just had a question on the 5 experiences because that seems really cool. You mentioned it works every time. Are there some sort of measurements that you use to determine what's a successful event?
Yeah, so you have to kind of come up with what your measurements are for the event. It's usually tied to sales or number of members. And so it goes from number of people attending and actually you're signing up to attending. Sometimes you do a post survey of those that attended to find, ask them questions of what they thought of the event and things like that. The other thing is, did you actually get sales? Do you get actually people signing up? How many, that type of, actual hard results that you get. But you do need to kind of set that up if you want to measure it.
Right.
Any shy group?
Well, I have one more, Steve, and then you jump in. But when we go back, this is always kind of an ongoing issue with us. And you mentioned food, because, so many dietary restrictions and, do you have any guidelines on that or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for a true, what I feel for an app, you should have options. And like if someone like for a luncheon, especially what I found, even in really prevalent in Madison than when I was doing events in Dallas, is that there's a lot more gluten-free here. Okay. And so I try to make sure that there's a vegetarian option. Whoops, someone's
okay.
There we go.
There you go.
I try to make sure that there is a vegetarian option, a gluten-free option, and a dairy-free option. And usually with all of those, you should be able to be okay and make sure it's clearly marked. And then, sometimes there's options like you don't put, put the dressings on the side, you do different things like that. There's a kind of a whole new thing with the COVID, but it's quickly going away, which is kind of interesting. Just people want to get back to normal, I guess. But it was doing just real individual type of things that just are for the individual people to try not to do the buffets anymore. But I've already heard they're letting buffets come back. Originally with servers, but in some places, but not letting people do it themselves. But in some places they're letting people do it themselves. So a lot of things that, we all thought there was going to be more of a caution, there isn't. It's kind of, but some people are choosing to have it be more of a caution, to be giving that more sense of safety to the people who are attending. Even with food trucks, I'm doing this event with food trucks. I'm going to make sure that there are vegetarian, gluten-free, and dairy-free type of things to choose from. So
nice.
That's more of the fun stuff. Yeah. Anything?
Greg, I saw a question there in the comments from Janine Harlow. So do you have a project management software you recommend, Terry?
There are tons of different project management softwares out there. However, and I know this is going to sound bad, and maybe I need to listen to Lori next week and stuff like that. I always revert. I get upset because I can't manipulate it the way I wanted to manipulate it. So it ends up being an Excel sheet for me. And, that's kind of what I do. But I kind of throw in a little bit of Trello. There's another one that people are using a lot of that I just didn't take the time to learn. I think, is it Snap It or something like that? But I didn't give it really an opportunity yet. But some people are raving about that. And then there's, actually really elaborate systems to use too. Asana, I see Asana. Yes, that's actually I'm also a managing director of eWomen Network, and their management team all uses Asana, and it's especially good with teams.
Yeah, I think Larry's going to be talking a little bit more about, automation too, just automated, marketing automation.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you, and someone brought this up, and I thought it was a great strategy. We haven't really used it. It's kind of the slow unveil to build momentum for an event. So I think they were talking about what was a big event, and the first thing was like, save the date, we've got a big event coming up. And then they announced like the speakers at the event, and then they announced, so they like slowly added elements and spaced that out. Do you do that much?
It depends on the event, so unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to do that because a few different events that I was working on, unfortunately, they didn't have the materials ready to almost right before the event type of situation. I was kind of helping some people on that, but that is the right way actually to do it, is especially for a bigger event where it's longer than just a couple hours, where it's taking more time. And just so you think about weddings, people send you save the date, so they want you there. So already when you say save the date, oh, they want me there. What is this going on? So you start building that curiosity. And as you're kind of revealing some of the information, it kind of builds the excitement of attending that event. So it's a great, yes, I highly recommend it. And when you start the communication of the event, that doesn't mean you stop it. You keep it going. And you do a great job of that. And the American Marketing Association does a great job of that, of keeping the information going.
Maybe next, it's already ruined with Lori, but for our next speaker, we'll just announce the first name, right? And then a week later, half of the last name. Steve, what do you think?
I'm all over it. I think it's great. And then we can follow it up the next week with just the first two words of her presentation title. Yeah, we could. Love it.
Because then you're building engagement kind of with the event, Maybe you can have a prize of like, Jeopardy or something that someone guesses it or something.
I'm somewhat serious now.
We could send out puzzle pieces to potential participants, and they can do the puzzle to figure out who's going to be person there. But similar, joking aside, for like our annual conference, typically that's what we would do. We would, be sending out a save the date in June. Then, we probably introduce a single speaker every week, every other week. Do some video with the speakers as well when we're introducing them, and so kind of tease it out that way too, to help build the excitement.
Yeah, and like I said, people like free stuff. So if there's going to be prizes, you're not going to want to miss this, and da 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 da. It's amazing. I mean, it's probably, we just like free stuff and the opportunity to win. I actually started with my eWomen group of raising money for a foundation, for a charity. That's another nice thing to do, and actually grows that know, like, and trust and stuff like that. But this is actually within the eWomen, but I was hesitant to start it because it was right in the middle of COVID. But I decided to just give it a try. And we do a raffle, and then we spin the wheel. And I've got so many positive feedback that people just enjoy that, whether they donate or not. They just like the whole spin the wheel and chance of winning prize, and someone's a winner, and just like the little bit of a festivity of different kind of fun things. The overall, for a virtual event, the overall number one factor of looking at event research that people enjoy are the small group connections. And so being able to connect with people in smaller groups has been the number one thing that people have enjoyed from virtual events.
Yeah, and we really haven't, because our format is kind of small with the hour, we really haven't done that well with craft. And I know Steve has been encouraging that. Maybe, next pandemic we'll try it. But I did have a question just for you. A little free advice, perhaps, as we come back as we hopefully emerge from the pandemic. It's one thing that's been nice is having people from all over the country and really all over the world attend some of these events, these craft marketing events in particular. And I'd love to keep that going, just because we hear from so many different people. But in regards to the hybrid, I know a lot of people are streaming live on LinkedIn or doing something like that. It's probably a little too early to see if anybody's been really doing the in-person and then the streaming or anything like that. Have you heard anything yet, or any advice?
Yeah, one of the groups I belong to, Engaging Speakers, is doing that. eWomen chose not to do it because they tried it and you could make no one happy, is basically what happened. And so really from what I've been hearing, unless you can spend for the big bucks to have the right technology and do it right, that you should most likely do two different events. But to your point, Greg, I really recommend or switch off. I'm gonna try that with eWomen, is that maybe 1 month I'm going to be in person, next month I'm going to do it virtual. So I'm not excluding the people that are going to be doing it virtual, because you're right, we learn to expand our world with the whole virtual. It's easy, but there's something about human connection. Some people are doing, they were doing hybrid until they found out the cost. Now they're just going for the in-person because things are kind of opening up faster than they thought. But they are still taping parts of it and maybe inviting some of their speakers back for a separate virtual event afterwards. So they're actually making one event into two events. And that's pretty smart, because then, whoever couldn't travel, they could still reach the other people that were, that are out there and part of their group.
Okay. Well, until we make beer virtual, we'll probably definitely be doing the in-person component, but I think something to consider. I know Tony Verovan just throws money around like crazy as the AMA president, so I'm sure he'll be going great guns to just let's light it up. Let's do whatever we got to do.
Free beer next month. So yeah, we're just spending it like as fast as we can make it.
No, it's because we have great sponsors that help us do these things.
So he's creating an experience. There's going to be interaction, there's engagement. You're going to be, you know, kind of employing all the different five senses. You know, you're going to be smelling the beer, you're going to be tasting the beer, you're going to be touching the cup.
I'm going to point at Greg and say, thank Greg for supporting AMA Madison all year long as a sponsor for craft marketing. So shake his hand. That's his touch.
Yeah. And the great view from Old Brick Park.
Oh, that's so beautiful there. Actually, it's wonderful. So Tony, a question: what are you going to do if there's a rain date? Have you set up a rain date?
Rain or shine.
It's not going to rain.
Okay,
it's not going to rain. We're going to
okay. So hopefully it doesn't rain on your parade, but just watch it because they will shut down if it rains.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that. We'll make we'll probably have a date after that where we do a separate social. So.
That was our issue in 2019. There was a good chance of thunderstorms, but we were able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry, real quick, because you kind of alluded to it before. So at what point do you think we'll be going back? You know, if you think about some of the big events that we used to have here in Madison, you know, in business, you know, their networking events and, you know, high tech happy hour would have, you know, especially in the summer, they'd have, you know, 100-something, 200 people at the union. I mean, when do you think we're really going to get to that point where we're going to see those types of larger...
So I'm also a member of the Downtowners. We have been having in-person events since February, outdoors for the most part, trying to keep them outdoors. But our last one, which was just last week, was indoors, and there was 75 people there.
Okay.
And so you can do events now. It'll be actually more easier. Everyone still had to enter a building with a mask, but I have to say that as long as you're eating or drinking kind of thing, you have to remove your mask. And so, yeah. But June 2nd is probably Madison's release date of things being really wide open, but groups are doing it now. Like I had an in-person event now. As far as, so it's up to each individual group. It's up to each, it'll be more individual, what's right for your group, your audience, and also what venues you use. And a lot of people are trying to keep to the outdoors because it is safer, you know, in the sense of the COVID type of things, but that's quickly changing now too.
Okay.
So
and the venues, I mean, so are the venues putting in any restrictions at all? Or, you know, I would imagine
you're going to have to check with each venue. They're all making their own decisions and decide in decisions. And so that's what's making things kind of very complicated, you know, and is that you have to check with the venue and see what it is. And that's why, you know, the beer garden's a beautiful place to have a gathering, you know, your first gathering, because it's outdoors, it's very loose. And so that's a great place to have it. But indoor venues and stuff like that, each one you have to check with. They're all going to have different rules.
Sounds great.
Tony, are you lifting restrictions in your garage? I mean, that could be the backup.
Yeah, there we go.
If they come up to Windsor, we can do it. Who lives nearest to Monona? Megan's in.
You could be the first human I interact with after quarantine.
Oh, and Jennifer from Kiva is saying they don't have any restrictions outside, and if June 2nd, we will not have any restrictions for events. So
fantastic.
Yeah, they have a beautiful space. I've visited. I love Jennifer and Jennifer's space, and so definitely check that out for events. It's really good.
Thank you, Terry.
Yep.
We're excited to have more events, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think everyone is. And the events that I have gone to in person, people are just loving seeing other people in person. But it's got, actually, I should write a comedy article. People are like, oh, they're going to see all of me. Ooh, I have to do the behind my hair. And so it's coming up with this whole panic of they're going to see all of me. And a lot of times with the COVID, a lot of us have gained weight. So there's not only seeing all of you, it's seeing more of you. So it's kind of funny. It brings up a conversation like, oh, I haven't worn a tie, you know, and over a year was what the guy mentioned this morning to me. And he looked good, but he said, I have not worn this in a year. And I put on a dress. I went in a dress, but it's kind of like I had to remember to sit properly with a dress. And so just different things, you know, that we kind of got relaxed and wearing only, you know, the front of us waist up, you know, being prepared for an event. And so,